Hi, thanks for tuning in. As you know, I do Tuesdays. I'm also going to do a series called hashtag Realtor. Why do they do that? So we're going to talk about agency. Why do we get you to go over agency with us, and why do we have you sign agency? The short answer, it's the law. Okay, so for us as realtors, it is the law for us to get you to review agency with us, for us to explain to you as the consumer what different types of agency relationships there are and what they mean, and so you know what you're getting involved in. When I first started in 2002, I think I've always had to do it. I don't think that we really pressed it as hard as we do now, and it's probably wrong that we didn't do it that way, but we really, it's one of the things that I can get in a lot of trouble for if I don't have an agency disclosure signed. And by law, once I start talking to you about real estate, before you give me any personal information, before you give me your financial information, how much you'll accept for your house, before you give me any of that information, I have to have an agency disclosure signed by law. So it's amazing to me how many people I've talked to that has worked with a realtor in the past and doesn't even know what an agency disclosure is. It doesn't mean that they didn't sign one. It doesn't mean that the agent didn't do their job. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it wasn't probably discussed enough that you understood what you were doing. So I am going to go through these really quick. And I'm told these videos can't be very long. So if you want to learn more, I want you to reach out to me, but we're going to go through them really quick. So on the agency disclosure that is written by a group of lawyers for us, for the state of Michigan, the first thing that's going to be on there is the seller's agent. That is an agency type relationship. And when I list a home, I have a fiduciary relationship responsibility to the home sellers. And so it was interesting. I had a situation where I had a couple that was getting divorced. They wanted to sell the house. The house was in the man's name. It wasn't in the woman's name. And in Michigan, dowry rights doesn't exist anymore. My relationship, my fiduciary relationship, was with the person who owned the home, which in this case was the soon-to-be ex-husband. So that's where my relationship lied, and that was where my duty lied. Now, I tried to be fair to all parties and make sure that I do what's right to everyone, because that's also the law. But we all had to understand where our fiduciary relationship lied. My job is to get you the best price for your home, to market your home, to communicate with you. And there is a list of things that you can get to know, get a list of that will tell you everything I'm supposed to do for you as your seller's agent. Buyer's agent. When I'm a buyer's agent, it's basically the same thing, only on the buyer side. It's my job to get your home for the best price possible. So as a seller's agent, I am trying to get the highest price. As a buyer's agent, I'm trying to get the lower price. You see how that can be a conflict? And so, but I'm supposed to communicate with you. I am supposed to let you know anything that I learn about that house. I need to tell you as a buyer's agent. So I am assumed to work for the seller until you sign a buyer's agency with me. So we can go a little bit more detail, but just so you know, in the state of Michigan, by law, I work for the seller until you sign a buyer's agency. So then we have the fiduciary relationship that I have with the seller, the fiduciary relationship that I have with the buyer, and then we have dual agency. Dual agency is when you represent the seller and the buyer. Now, if I explain myself well enough, you're going to say, what? How can you do that? Well, you can't. It is really like a glorified transaction coordinator. I can't disclose how much lower the seller will go. I can't disclose how much higher you can go. I can't advise you on price. There's a lot of things I cannot do. So you get very little representation in my mind. That's why I do not participate in dual agency. I have other ways that JH Realty can help you. I have other agents in my office that can help you. But when I list a home, I also don't help the buyer. We also have something that's called a transaction coordinator. So a transaction coordinator is someone who is not licensed, but pretty much like a dual agency with you, but that doesn't have a license. So someone that's not licensed, it's just pushing paper. Sometimes it's a lawyer. Sometimes it's someone. There's people that are transaction coordinators. I have one, and all they're doing is telling you the paperwork you need to fill out. They're just telling you what's the next step. They're not advising you on anything. Sometimes when you sell your home for sale by owner, and the agent will come and bring a buyer for you, they will help you with the paperwork, but they can't advise you anything. They're your transaction coordinator, but they represent the buyer, and their fiduciary relationship is with the buyer. Okay, and then we also have designated agency. I don't know how far back that goes. I'm trying to remember. We founded a designated agency during my career as a realtor, so I can't remember what year that was, but before designated agency was a thing, it was said that every agent in the office works for you. So it was my spill. I used to work for a really large office, and I used to say I have 200 agents that are working for you. But that also meant 200 agents could know everything about you. If you're working with a real estate company that is a designated agency, your relationship is with the broker, and the broker then designates one agent to work for you, and those are the only two people that are supposed to know anything about you. And so I wonder how many of you actually know if the brokerage you're working for is a designated agency or not. Most of us are. I don't know that I know of an agency that isn't, but I'm sure they're out there. But it also protects the broker where they can't get sued. So it's really a good thing for the broker to be a designated agency. Now I explain this in a lot more detail when you're my client. But this is the gist of it all. And I hope if you have any questions that you'll reach out to me. Call or text 616-443-0596 and make sure you stay tuned for further informative videos. So this is my goal. I want to educate the public so you all know what's going on. What's today? Happy Wednesday.